Good morning, everyone. Thank you. As Mark said, Alex Krenicki, corporate real estate, Express Scripts, recently merged with Cigna. So for the next 15 minutes or so, I'm going to share with you, some of my experience in the 23 years over at Express Scripts and Medco and Merck Medco in this changing landscape. I'm by no means a salesperson here. I'm not trying to sell you anything. But again, this is purely a end user perspective on the industry as I see it. For the sake of this presentation, we're going to be talking about enterprise data centers, basically the end user data center, co-location data centers, which essentially to me is a condo that has been built purposely for you to rent out space. They provide cooling, UPS power generator backed, and you basically roll in your racks and you manage the interior of that space. And then lastly, I'm going to touch upon the public cloud. This is something that I think many of us in this room are being targeted as the next best thing in data centers. And it is overwhelming. I think as you see, we go through this, through my thoughts here. And if you're a CIO, there is a lot of pressure to go to the cloud. Why do we own an enterprise data center when you can just pay as you go and enter a colo? So let's get started here. So if you have your own data center, people are saying, what are you doing with your own data center? Data centers are essentially dead. And, there's maybe some truth to that. If you have an older data center and you can't maintain, uptime and service delivery for your IT equipment, and there's no capital to, update your UPS systems, update your air conditioning and whatnot, maybe you should not be in an enterprise data center. If your operation and maintenance practices are not really up to snuff, maybe you're not focused and to be in that type of environment. If you don't have a long-term strategy for growth, how to handle different types of platforms, your mainframe platform, your distributed systems, Teradata, you really have to have a strategy to support those systems, to maximize the life cycle of those types of systems. Unwilling to properly staff, your facility. But on the other hand, if you're willing to make the necessary investments, if you need to, again, do a UPS refresh, air conditioning, and so on, and you had the discipline, you have the funding, you have good change management practices, maybe you can extend the life of your enterprise data center. What is the typical life of a data center today? I don't know. I mean, some people say it's 5 years, some people say it's 10 years. People look at me kind of strange when I tell them that, we basically maintained our enterprise data center for 20 years. But that was a lot of work. You have to have very good, strong teams. You have to have a very good relationship with your technology partners, your vendors, your consultants. It doesn't happen by itself. It does take a lot of work. I'm going to move on into the co-location market. Again, it's condos for your equipment. And the co-location market is made up of REITs, real estate investment trusts. These are investments that you can go into the stock market and you can buy, shares of Equinix and Digital Realty and QTS and so on. It was very interesting. I actually found a document by Credit Suisse that talked about the financials of these different types of co-location or REITs. They basically outperformed a lot of the major indices in the stock market, since 2014. And they are predicting that 9% growth through 2021. And in addition to people moving out of their enterprise data centers into a colo, the cloud providers are really driving some of that growth. I think, I've seen a lot of data centers being built, and it seems like they're continuing. I'm wondering if it's going to flatline. Are we going to see a slowdown? Are we going to see any change in that landscape due to rising interest rates and whatnot? So I think that's something that, we want to watch in the next, I don't know, 3 years or so. What does that market actually look like? So kind of the life in a co-location facility. A couple of the good things is that you only pay for what you really need. You're gonna ask for a specific amount of space, and you're gonna pay for that space and that amount of power. Those are the things that you just pay for what you really need. All the types of facility services, with the exception of maybe your floor cleaning and maybe the whips inside your space. A lot of the other things are all taken care, provided for you by the landlord. The exposure or the number of vendors that you have to deal with, again, it's really maybe your electrical contractor installing whips and maybe the underfloor cleaning, but everything else is managed by your landlord, by your colo provider. The other thing, the colo owner or manager assumes the risks, right? Anything goes wrong, they are the ones that are getting the first call in the morning. It's not you getting that water under floor alarm, at 3 a.m. on a Sunday. So, but are they responding the same way you would have responded if you got the alarm? So that's some things that keep me up at night. Is there full transparency? Can do you know everything that's going on in that space, when you're not around? The owner is on call, not you. Nothing is free. Everything is a la carte. When you had your enterprise data center, if you needed a hand from somebody working in the mailroom and you're moving equipment or whatnot, you had other resources to use. Colo is very competitive. They are very efficient, and there's not too many people just sitting around waiting to help you. You have very limited control of when work is performed. If you're in a mega data center that has several 100,000 square feet and they have to maintain their air conditioners, do you think that they're going to work their schedule around your workload? I don't think that's going to happen. I think they're going to, do maintenance on their systems when they want to do it. The other ththing that's kind of interesting, I don't know what your thoughts for you folks out there, is shared infrastructure. When you have your own end user data center, you basically have your own generators, your own UPS, you really control, and you're aware of what that infrastructure is doing for you. The majority of the colos that I have seen, shared infrastructure is really the norm. Whether it's a shared generator plant, a chiller plant, even the shared space. So basically, look at this as a data hall. You could have 5 different customers within the same data hall. They're doing work in that room. If somebody plugs in a vacuum cleaner or a piece of equipment, can that impact your processing? I don't know. That's I think the risk. If there is a God forbid, a fire, your equipment is exposed. So the whole idea of shared infrastructure, shared space and services, it's just something to think about if you're looking at colo. And again, as I was saying, the data center REIT market is very aggressive. There are constant, different REITs buying others. There are other acquisitions in addition to the new builds. So how does a change in ownership may impact you? Do they have the same philosophy of the vendor that you signed up with 3 years ago? The new acquiring company, are they going to do the same thing for you? And then, so ultimately, the cloud. Everybody else is doing it, right? I mean, it definitely reduces the amount of capital that you need, as opposed to you building out your own data center or space. You pay for what you use, basically processing power or disk storage. You just pay what you need. It's very efficient. There's no waste. If you're going into colo, you have an enterprise data center. In order to have speed to accommodate changing load in your landscape, you have to have capacity. You have to have spare capacity. And that's where the inefficiency comes in. If you have 50% of UPS or generator plant doing nothing, you're paying for that. Here, there's a major trust factor. You have other people managing your applications in their environment. So are you okay with that? The level of risk, and I'll have another slide to show a little bit of risk concerns. Again, transparency. You're not going to see everything that is going on in the colo space. You just want to know that your app is running. That's all you're going to really see. Security is a major concern. I work in the patient information business, and that is of utmost importance. But I think people do realize that colo is a very important part of strategy. I spent a little bit of time with a friend that works at Goldman Sachs, and he's ready to jump onto the cloud. They have jumped into the cloud, and I was kind of concerned. I said, a company like that who has very deep pockets, right? Why would they want to go to cloud? You would think that they would have tier 4 data centers all over the world. And he said, no, I mean, their key processing, their major focus, core processing they do have in their own data centers, but development environment, that's probably an ideal place to put the cloud. So I think there's ultimately we're all going to end up in the cloud at some point. Just a couple of things. Again, I'm not bashing cloud, but there's just a lot of information out there. I found it kind of interesting, the number of outages in 2018 in the cloud, and it's not any one particular cloud provider, but Google, Equinix, AWS. It's anything from a half an hour or a single data center. This one was pretty interesting. It happened in Ireland. A farmer cut a fiber cable, basically took down, I think, 3 data centers in Northern Europe. It's kind of scary, right? Microsoft, hardware failures. Again, credit card transactions being impacted. I mean, that can really hurt your business if you can't process credit cards. Communications outages, you can't conduct your business, and these are, major outages. These are major facilities that have a lot of different things tied to them. And as well, again, in my opinion, these cloud providers are security targets. I think there are people out there that are going to really try to attack these facilities because they have multiple types of businesses running out of them. I mean, the smallest one is 360,000 social security numbers being hacked out of a site supporting the Pennsylvania Department of Education. But look at some of the other ones. I mean, Orbitz, 880,000 names, addresses, emails, credit card numbers. SunTrust, 1.5 million former employee steals personal data. I mean, that's crazy stuff. Saks and Lord and Taylor, that's a big one. 5 million people had their credit cards taken. So I think that there's going to be a major area of focus to tie these things down. I think, again, people are going to end up going out there, but security has got to be addressed. This kind of looks like probably kind of an eye exercise, but I think the point here is this is the end user data center, and this is where it looks like it's going to be. And this is based on 451 research. It was a survey taken, and basically people are thinking that the enterprise data center is going to be cut in half, or people going to the enterprise data center by 20%. So, and the cloud is going to just continue to grow. So, you know, what's my message here? You know, you sometimes, you know, you're up here for 20 minutes and, you know, what did he just say? You know, I think it's very important as us as antisocial, paranoid, schizophrenic engineers that, you know, we have to have a relationship with our technology team and our business partners to understand their business, know their priorities, understand the levels or acceptable levels of risk. There is always risk in whatever you do. Understand your fiscal landscape with your CFO. I mean, are you guys OpEx heavy or CapEx heavy? I've seen both. You know, we're sitting on tons of cash. Let's build. You know, we don't have any capital. Let's just rent. So you have to really understand that when you are looking to develop your data center strategy. Identify your resources, whether they be internal or external. Do you have a good team that could support building out or managing data center spaces? And do your homework. You know, really, this is not something you do on the back of a napkin. This doesn't happen in a few days or hours. You know, you have to have the right people, be dedicated, and, you know, you're going to have to make a decision. And this decision is something you're going to have to live with at least 5 years, if not 10 or more. So definitely a big investment. Do your homework up front and then execute. And that is it.
Very good. Very nicely done.